Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another video. So today we have some big reveals for The Bad Batch Season 2, as well as Andor Season 2, which as you know comes out next year, 2024. I will say for The Bad Batch, we will be going into spoiler territory, so if you've not seen episodes 1 and 2, or you generally don't want to know about later in the season, you might want to turn away. But no more jibber jabber, let's dive straight into this. We begin with a huge update for The Mandalorian. A new spin-off has been revealed. This was just a rumour going around a couple of days ago, but now it's been officialised on Production Weekly. As the current slate of Mandoverse shows are done and ready for release, the Ahsoka series, Skeleton Crew and Mando Season 3, Jon Favreau and Filoni are preparing for the next phase, which includes The Mandalorian Season 4 and a new show with the codename Ghost Track 17. Just like Grammar Rodeo ended up being Skeleton Crew, this one is going to have a different final name when it's officially announced by Lucasfilm, probably at Star Wars Celebration in April. Based on the name alone, a lot of fans assume it relates to the Ghost Crew, who are first going to appear in live action in Ahsoka, but it could also be an Ezra and Thrawn spin-off, continuing their journey beyond the Ahsoka series. Nothing more is known at this stage, but I spoke with Making Star Wars and they believe it might be unrelated to The Mandalorian, as this codename has been around for a couple of years. It might even be a droid story, which we still have no update on, but Daniel RPK and a few other leakers are adamant it's Mandoverse. Share your thoughts on this in the comments down below, and now onto Andor Season 2. Now we've had quite a few teasers by Collider.com, who spoke with Diego Luna and Tony Gilroy, and they gave us some crumbs, some tidbits, about what we might expect when the show returns. But today, the source of this news is Denise Goff herself, Dedra Meero, the ISB agent on Coruscant, one of the best performances in the entirety of Season 1. You know, the one with the really weird relationship to Cyril Khan. They had the most what the f*** moment of the entire season. In a brand new interview about Season 2, Denise revealed that Dedra will be sporting different outfits in Season 2, different from the white one we saw in the first season. Now I assume apart from casual clothes, she might be referring to the dark ISB agent suit, like the one that Agent Callus wore, and this means one thing: a promotion within the ISB. At the moment, she's lieutenant and supervisor, but she might climb the ranks to major general. Good for her if she does. She's an imperial sycophant. She's a great character, but let's be real here, she's a nasty piece of work. I don't know about you guys, but I love these tidbits when it comes from the actors. Notoriously, people like Giancarlo Esposito and Tamara Morrison are wonderful for accidental spoilers. We've had so many of them. Sprinkle details here and there when they know they shouldn't be revealing this, or in the case of Giancarlo, he doesn't know he's not supposed to. He just loves his character. You can't blame him. Dedra Meero was such a refreshing addition to the Andor show and to the Empire generally. She gave one of my favourite performances in Season 1, and as we spoke about in the past, did you know before the Andor show, she almost quit acting? As our favourite protocol droid would say, thank the maker she didn't. So I'm really excited for Season 2. We've had a lot of information over the last few weeks. Of course, we learned that Cyril Khan is in the first scene they shot for Season 2, so I'm sure we're going to have more details over the next few weeks. And so now guys, let's talk about The Bad Batch Season 2. The press tour has begun, and there have been so many interviews with Michelle Ang, Jennifer Corbett, D. Bradley Baker, and Brad Rao, and they've unveiled some very interesting perspectives. But before we talk about those, I want to highlight an accidental leak from StarWars.com. In their databank for Clone Captain Rex, they've shown a picture from Season 2 that we haven't seen yet, and it reveals the return of a very unlikely Clone Wars character, Rio Chuchi. This Pantoran female appeared in various episodes of the Clone Wars series, starting in Season 1. Rio Chuchi served as a politician and representative for a planet during the Clone Wars. She was on the side of the Republic. She also helped negotiate peace between the Tels tribe on the neighbouring planet of Auto Plutonia. Later in the Clone Wars, she also helped combat the Trade Federation blockade of her home planet with the help of Ahsoka. So later in The Bad Batch Season 2, she's going to appear, and she's probably an ally to Bail Organa, who also makes an appearance. So she's going to meet with Rex and Clone Force 99. We don't know much else about the context. Also, in another now deleted picture from StarWars.com depicting Sid and the Bad Batch from Season 2, in a later episode we haven't seen yet, we also have a new protocol droid, a blue one who we've not met yet. We don't know his or her name, but it looks very similar to the one Dr. Pershing speaks to in the extended footage for The Mandalorian Season 3 that was shown at Star Wars Celebration. Interesting food for thought. So just before we get to some of the comments from the creatives, I want to talk about The Bad Batch Season 2 on the whole. If you remember a few weeks ago, I went through some of the reviews from those who got screeners, the first 14 episodes. Generally, things were very positive. There was the occasional comment about filler episodes, but generally speaking, people were very happy. I think only one or two said it was a mixed bag, but now comes a review from Collider's Maggie Lovett, and she's been very, very transparent, probably the most in-depth review of all of them. It's impartial, and she's not afraid to talk about the negatives, highlighting some things which need to be addressed. I'm just going to highlight the main bits, the meat and potatoes, the biggest takeaways, and what we can expect. I will say, this is a spoiler-free review, nothing too specific, but it does cover some of the main themes, so let's dive into this. So first of all, she's very honest, as I say, not overly positive. So the TLDR, the lowdown is, the Bad Batch Season 2 does have a few bumpy episodes, and at times, they don't justify the existence of this show. She's very upfront in saying that some episodes are much more plot-driven than others, which is a polite way of saying there is some filler in this. She also mentions the scope of the Empire being a central theme in some of the later episodes, but she does hint there's not enough Crosshair, and at times this can be frustrating. Conversely, Omega is the star of Season 2. In her own words, she says, Omega is the heart of the series. In the time between Season 1 and 2, she's aged and matured, and while she still sees the world through rose-coloured glasses, across the 14 episodes, she learns that actions have consequences. And she says 14 episodes, not 16, because the final 2 were not sent out in screeners. But she goes on to make it clear the Bad Batch Season 2 is at its strongest when Omega is the focus, when she's learning more about herself, the Batch, and the galaxy's oppression and treatment of clones. She says the refreshing part is we're seeing the childlike naivete slowly be stripped away from Omega as she realizes the hardships of the universe at this time. In terms of the season going dark, as many of the creatives teased, the Bad Batch is very aware of its TV PG audience, so it's not going as dark as Andor. Star Wars animation is for everyone, but the dark themes are still palatable to kids in a big way, so they don't go that dark. But she says the show still packs in large-scale moral dilemmas, the harsh realities of oppression, and lofty ideas about agency. She finishes by rating the Bad Batch Season 2 as a B, and this reminds me of one of the reviewers. I can't remember if it was TV Line or maybe CBR, but there was one review that basically said the best way to describe Season 2 is interesting. Don't get it wrong, there are highs but there are also lows. But this reviewer says in spite of all of that, Omega is the one character who holds things together. She is apparently the star, at least in the first 14 episodes. Remember, no one can comment on the last 2, but when we do see those, the season might be more coherent and make a lot more sense. The reviewer ends by saying redemption, transformation, and metamorphosis play a big part in the second half of the season, which in its own way redeems the series as a whole. So she's not afraid to say, you know what, there are some things in this show which don't work, but on the whole it does. And by the sounds of it, it's the big life lessons, the big themes of family, redemption, and identity that make this season what it is. So I'm really excited. As you guys know, if you saw my full episode breakdowns, I really enjoyed the first 2. They were fun, action-packed, and of course that incredible ending, which, as I posited, sets up bigger themes of the Empire's relationship to clones. And so now guys, as I said, we have some new comments from the creatives on the show, and with all of the interviews they've given, there is the common theme of Empire and the growing threats the Bad Batch face. Let's see what they said. So this comes from D. Bradley Baker. The key thesis of the season to me is that the Empire is growing bigger and there's nowhere to run or hide. He goes on to say, and that plays out for Omega as it does for the Bad Batch, as it does for Crosshair, and so these things are the larger realities of the Star Wars canon that are locking into place and coming into play. And it's spectacularly great Star Wars as far as I'm concerned. I just love it. And the biggest takeaway from Michelle Ang is something Jennifer Corbett teased a few weeks ago, a potential clone rebellion, an uprising from all of the clones as their inhibitor chips are wearing off, especially those who are still loyal to the Empire. We saw this with Wilco. He had a brief moment in Season 2, Episode 2, where he runs over to his fallen man, and that is a moment of change for him in his mind. He realizes, I've lost too many of my brothers fighting for the Empire. And here is the key quote. Michelle says, Omega wants to advocate for the clones as a race with rights. So we're going to see a rebellious side to Omega, and she's going to be part of that clone rebellion, part of being one of those who stands up and says, you know what, screw the Empire, we clones deserve better, and those of us who defected should not have to live a life on the run. Let's wait and see how it all plays out. And one final rumour before I go, Grace Randolph, who also saw the first 14 episodes, teased that Mount Tantiss and the Palpatine cloning plot is going to be bigger than we realise, and there's a new doctor who might be the boss of Dr. Pershing. I'm so excited excited for this and the possible connections with The Mandalorian. Share your thoughts in the comments down below, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you always.